Okay. Module 5 was around, the topic was the York Region Service System. So we did identify in that process the key ministry-funded ASD specialist service providers in the York region. So again, can you remember what those those 5, I think, 4 or 5 ASD service providers are in York? Just call one. Carrier's Place. Early intervention, yes. They don't consider themselves an ASD specialist, but they have a lot of knowledge and they certainly get most of the kids. We'll add that one. Kinner, yes, the autism programs at Kinner. Children's Treatment Network is a partner with the ABA program and other services for autism. Well, yes. Okay, the development BSO, the Developmental Services Ontario Access to Adult Services. Again, they probably don't consider themselves an autism specialty, but that's where adults with autism are going to access the system. Triad is still around and will exist in other venues in the long run. So the other one I would say would be Autism Ontario. And again, your behavior management services, although they would not say that they're an autism specialty, they do serve many people with autism behavior management services.
I actually have a question. During that module, we had a sheet of paper that working in groups, and we had like those organizations, and we had to think about what the eligibility requirements were and all that. And we took them back. We're going to get them back.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Actually, what we decided, so one of the groups, the mapping, the work groups within the partnership, the Mapping and Pathways work group, is working on, I think I mentioned this to you in one of the models, a comprehensive ASD database that is, we've contracted with the 211 service in the York region to develop this electronic database. We've gathered all the information. Well, no, we haven't. We've gathered the basic information, now we're trying to gather the detailed information to go into this database. So we realized that there's no point in us trying to do that because this database is going to do it for you. And it's a huge task to collect all those details, which we're now in the process of having to contract some people in to help gather that from 40 different agencies. So you will get it when the database is complete. It was supposed to be, you might recall, it was supposed to be one of the pieces of training for November, but as happens in these kind of projects, it's going to be several more months before all the information is in. But it will then be available to you, all of you, as it's not open to the public, and it's not open, this database, and it's not open to the 211 phone answerers. You'll have an access password to get into that database, and then you can search. So it's coming.
In the meantime, does your
Yes, and you could use 211. Just that their data on ASD is not great, which is why they were quite willing to work with us to get all of that put in because it'll feed their own databases. I'm hoping that'll be the case, but I'm not holding my breath. Yeah, that's not far away. It's like 2 months. For most of you, that database isn't critical unless you're consultants working with the family. You're looking for a particular service in a particular area. That's when it's going to be valuable. If you're connecting a family to the correct service provider for their child, for their age, and whether or not they have a diagnosis, you don't have to worry about using that database. We're going to use the access map that we have in front of you. So, moving on to that, we introduced this access map that's on this little bookmark. So there's some copies on your table, and you're welcome to take as many of those. What's exciting for us now is that we're getting calls asking for, can I have 20 copies, can I have 30 copies from different agencies, because they're starting to make use of this tool. And the real purpose of this was to simplify the access process so that families didn't have to face those 20 agencies or 40 agencies, but instead there was a single door. And it's based on three simple questions. How old is the person? Do they have a diagnosis yet or not? And who have they already connected with? And that last question, just so that you're not connecting people with or providing a connection where there's already one need. So we're hoping that's really going to improve the consistency of information that families hear. It's one of the most frustrating things they've experienced.
Will doctors have access?
Thank you. Yeah, that's why the physician support worker was listed up there. Yes, we're working on getting this out to into doctors in a variety of different modes. And we have a group, physician support worker, whose job it is to design that plan. On it, we have either 3 or 4 doctors, some of them are also parents. And some are specialists, pediatricians, Dr. Wayne Roberts is sitting on it, as well as family physicians as well. And it's been very helpful to get their insights into what will doctors read, what will doctors look at when it comes into their office, and how will they make use of this? What's the best method or a product for it to be? And this they liked a lot. They also were looking for one that they could use as a tear-off and give to families as well. But just to let you know, we did do an exhibit booth at a doctor's conference last fall. 75 York Region doctors were in attendance, and they loved this. And they were snatching them up as fast as they could, because they really feel like they don't know where they're supposed to send people after the diagnosis has been made. So I think that is going to help. So let's just try a few of those examples we did, and you can tell me where they're going. So, a 25-year-old woman with no diagnosis of ASD. DSO, yes. And they'll help them if the diagnosis process is what's required. Okay, a 17-year-old with no diagnosis of ASD, but it's suspected. CTN. Simple. A 40-year-old with severe autism. DSO. A 16-year-old boy whose parents want to access a private diagnostician. What was it? Actually, it's not. Autism Ontario isn't listed here, because we had to negotiate all these positions on the chart. Autism Ontario is only manned by volunteers. They didn't think they could handle the calls if they were on here. So which one is it? 211, right? It's the private provider. They're looking for a private provider. A 4-year-old that has just been diagnosed with ASD and is already involved with early intervention services. No. No? It's a 4-year-old who has just been diagnosed with ASD, but has already been involved with early intervention services since the child was 2. They're in the right place, that's right. So sometimes it's a family, that's right. So don't be sending it off tomorrow, because early intervention services will take care of that for you. So if you ask the question, who are you already involved with, and they say, well, we've had a worker from EIS, but I haven't told them about the diagnosis yet. That's where they need to go, back to their worker, because now EIS is going to kick in all their autism supports and link them with the right agencies. So EIS will definitely link them to KINARC for the ABA and Carrie's Place and so on. That was a trick one to see if you got it.
211 presentation. Can you give us a real quick
No, you didn't get it because the database isn't ready.
But we didn't get a presentation on it at all. Was he supposed to present and they didn't show up that day?
Not 211. It wasn't that they didn't show up. It was that they didn't have the database ready to present on it. Because it was supposed to be what the database looked like and how you could search on it.
Never used to.
Okay, so 211 itself is like 411 for social services. And there are specific databases by region. And they're not available in all regions of Canada, but that's what they're working towards. They're continuously growing that system and the contents of their database. You can access it by dialing 211, and someone will answer, and you can give them the information you're looking for, and they'll search it for you, just like 411. Or you can go online with 211 as well and do your own search. Now, at the beginning of this process with 211, we had a couple of parents do a test run for us and call saying that they were a parent, the child with ASD, what they were looking for. And it was a bit frustrating. Sometimes the caller on the other end had to have them repeat it 2 or 3 times because they couldn't grasp, they hadn't heard of it, couldn't grasp what they were looking for. But did eventually call up some resources from the database. And interestingly, in the information that 211 has currently, perhaps understandably, there's a lot of private providers listed in the 211 database, and some of the key ministry-funded service providers are not there. Yes, it is supposed to be. It is supposed to be. So there is a mix, for sure. But some of the key ones that are funded are not listed there. Cannot even come up, for example, when you search
Just
database.
a note though, one of the problems for 211 is all of their staff are Toronto-based, so they don't know your service. They're having to learn it through your and they're having to learn it the same way we did. So I think it'll take time for them to get comprehension of what the services are and where you go.
Yeah.
They're all talks.
Yeah. So it may not be as valuable to you as it will be in the future. But that's how you can use it. I recall when we did that little bit of research, some things came up of places we've never even heard of before, like the Canadian Centre for Neurology and Autism. What? Who is this? Why is it coming up in York Region? But nevertheless, Autism Ontario always came up. So again, if families get through 211, they're going to kind of get linked back to Autism Ontario anyway. So for example, if they were looking for a private diagnostician, if the diagnosticians don't come up themselves, Autism Ontario is going to come up, and they will provide them that information. Autism Ontario, the reason we have private providers in 211, just so you understand, I don't know if we talked about this or not, is most ministry, government-funded providers are uncomfortable recommending private providers because there's a bit of liability in doing so. When you say, go to this doctor, or here's this clinic or whatever, you're essentially validating them and their ethics and their work. So most organizations don't want to have that responsibility. But Autism Ontario can do that because they're a parent organization. And they have databases that we talked about, which you'll see on the screen in a minute, and that families can access. But they'll also give out the names of people. Like a parent volunteer on the other end of the phone can say, well, I know this dentist who's really good with autism, and it's perfectly fine for a parent to make that referral, not so fine for an agency to do so. Okay. So that was that access now. Actually, let me go back to the 310 Coke piece. So we did have them come and present for us. And I think our key message is basically from the 310 Coke. Is the message to families that they can work proactively with 310 Coke. They don't have to be in the midst of the crisis. In fact, it would be better if they weren't, if they did rather, call proactively, so that they can develop a crisis plan in advance. So it's there when they need it, if there is a potential for a crisis. And most families are quite aware that crises can be developing. It's also important to be aware that families can call there just for information. They, again, don't have to be in a crisis when they call. They can call to find out what's available to them, what kind of services, if they need it, are there. And so for us, it's important to recognize we can also do a warm transfer for families to 310 Coke. It's not going to be inappropriate for you to call up a worker at 310 Coke and say, we don't really have a crisis, but I want to connect you with this family.